The April 2010 meeting of the Environment and Public Works Committee will now come to order. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Barker. Here. Chairman Cassetti.
Here.
Mr. Colby.
Here.
Mr. Haney. Mr. Howland.
Here.
Mr. Hyder.
Here.
Mr. O'Brien.
Here.
Okay. Is there anyone signed up for the public forum?
No, sir.
Is there anyone present who has not signed up who would like to speak in front of the committee at this time? Okay. The next item on the agenda is the approval of minutes. You have the March 24th, 2010 minutes of the Environment and Public Works Committee before you. They stand approved unless the clerk is notified of any changes by the end of the day. The next item on the agenda is new business. Mr. Clerk.
Referral 10-137.
Moved by Legislator Colby, seconded by Legislator Barker. Any discussion? Legislator Colby.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First question is, how did this come in compared to the engineer's estimates for pricing overall?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, this is Mike Garland, Director of Environmental Services. Came in approximately 30% below the engineer's estimate.
Who was the engineer? Because it seems like this, our engineers have been way off. I understand some of that's because of the poor economy, looking for work, but it seems like to be a pattern that these engineers are highballing.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, that is a pattern that we have seen. The engineer was O'Brien and Gear, very reputable engineer, certainly. But we have seen that on other projects, not necessarily, say, wastewater infrastructure projects, building projects. I know you've seen those referrals come through the legislature. It doesn't seem that the estimating that we've seen done has necessarily caught up with the economy. The estimating still seems to be on the conservative side. Not in all cases, but in some. Certainly we're reaping the benefits. I guess I'd characterize it as a good problem to have. But we certainly want to have accurate estimates. It's very important
for planning purposes.
Absolutely. So we address that with the engineers or construction managers, whomever are doing that, and they certainly understand the need for accurate estimates.
The other question in the referral, it talks about that besides some of this equipment most of this equipment being replaced is at its useful end life. Also that this is at a pump station where the flow could go either way, maybe, and that's not the way it's set up now, and so this is going to leave you some leeway to go to either one of our major plants?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, yes, it does. It gives us very broad operational flexibility to divert flow to Rochester Pure Waters District or Northwest, and the benefit there is that in wet weather conditions, which this pump station is primarily dealing with wet weather flow, we can divert this and decrease, say, pressure and capacity issues and other.
I guess my follow-up question would be: is it capable of doing that now, or is that going to be a new feature when you rebuilt this?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, we do have operational flexibility to get to the city system, but it's a very circuitous route. This will afford a more direct, far more efficient route and give us greater capacity.
Yeah, because otherwise you have to go up through gates and come back around, right?
That's correct.
Thank you.
Legislator Hyder? Okay. Any further discussion? Legislator Haney.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, it seems to me in a budget book a year or two ago, I saw something that the Northwest Treatment Plant was approaching capacity. Where does the treatment plant stand in regards to capacity?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, we have a permitted capacity of 22 million gallons per day. Our dry weather flow is well below that in dry weather conditions. We We have had a very, I would say, impeccable permit record for the last 3 years, which is something we're very proud of, that we have not had excursions on our permit, including flow. At least we ran for about a 3-year period, which was notable for that performance. We are improving our hydraulic capacity by another project which has been approved, which is a secondary clarifier to the plant. So we will be able to manage our flows, I would say, more effectively without approaching excursions in our permitted capacity.
Does wet weather affect Northwest very much?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, it does, and we are actively looking to reduce impacts of wet weather in those basins. It's inflow and infiltration is what we typically call it. And we have older systems. GCO has some much older systems, and some of the towns, particularly Greece, has older sewer systems as well, and they're susceptible to I&I. And we're working collaboratively with Greece to identify and reduce the impacts of inflow and infiltration into the systems.
Van Leer actually, in heavy rainstorms, reaches capacity, doesn't it, on rare occasions?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, we've handled flows upwards of 600 million gallons per day, and we have some operational flexibility built into the plant, permitted by DEC to be able to respond to those high flows. Our average daily flow is around 100 million gallons per day, so it's a significant increase in a wet weather scenario. But we do have the capacity to be able to handle the flows that we receive both in dry and wet weather flows at Van Leer.
Is that where the tunnels come into use? You back it up in the big tunnels?
That's correct. Through you, Mr. Chairman, we have 175 million gallons of storage capacity in the CSOAP tunnels, which is an acronym for the Combined Sewer Overflow Abatement Program tunnel system. So we do. We'll hold those flows and attenuate those and allow those to be treated through the plant, and that gives us a lot of capacity in that regard.
Have there been any occasions in the last 2, 3, or 4 years in which you've had to let overflow go into the river?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, the system is designed to overflow. It was really a requirement by EPA when it was designed back in the 70s that the system could relieve itself. And yes, we have had permitted overflows in Genesee River. At one time, there was upwards of 60 before the system was installed, and I would say now we see anywhere from none to up to maybe 6 per year that might occur in the Genesee River. But again, they're permitted. It's designed to be able to overflow and relieve itself because of pressures and flows could ultimately damage the system itself.
How many times a year does it?
We say anywhere from 0 to 6 times a year.
Okay.
It's plus or minus, but greatly reduced from what the system had at the time prior to the...
Oh, yeah, years ago it used to be a regular occurrence.
That's correct.
All set, Legislator Haney? Okay. Legislator Colby? Oh, okay. Any further discussion? Being none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. Are there any other matters to come before this committee? There being no further business, the April 28th, 2010 meeting of the Environment and Public Works Committee stands adjourned. The next meeting will be May 26th, 2010 at 4:30 p.m. Thank you.